Welcome to TechbrothersIT. In this video, we are going to learn how to create a SQL Server instance on GCP, and then we will be setting the connectivity only by private IP. We'll create a VM on GCP that will be Windows operating system VM, and then we will download Azure Data Studio, or you can download the SQL Server Management Studio, and then we will connect to our SQL Server instance that we have created with the private IP only. And finally, what we will do, we will also go ahead and test. After all those testing, we'll enable the public IP on the same SQL instance and try to connect from our local machine. That's my laptop. Let's go ahead and start working on creating a SQL Server instance first. So go to the cloud portal here, console.cloud.google.com here, and then go to the navigation menu here. Once you are there, go look for SQL, and then you are going to create your SQL Server instance. Here now you can go to the create instance, and then go to the choose a SQL Server. There are two versions available, 2017 and 2019. And I'm going to give a name called Amir SQL Server, and give a password. The username is going to be SQL Server, and now you can select the production system or development. I'm gonna go with production because I'm gonna delete this after the demo, so I don't really care about the price I'm gonna pay for it. You can go region, single zone, or with the multiple zones. I'm gonna go with the single zone, and then further let's take a look. If you want to specify any zone, you can do that. In my case, that's not really worth of doing it. So I'm gonna go right here and then go to the machine type. I don't want to create 4 vCPUs and 26. I'm going to go with custom. Okay, this is fine with me. And then I'm going to go to the connections. That's important where we are, where this is the demo actually we are trying to perform. If you remember from my old videos with the public IP, you can enable public IP and then add network, add the IPs that you want this SQL instance to be connected from, and that will work just fine. You can give me here, I give my computer IP. I go and what is my IP, check that and add that. But today we are not going to do that. First we will be checking the private IP. So in that case, what we can do, you see right here, assigns an internal Google hosted VPC IP address, require additional APIs and permissions, cannot be disabled once enabled. So that's what happening here. Now associated network, select a network to create a private connection. So if you have a network, fine. If you don't have it, I'm gonna go with the default. Once you do that, it's to give you this message here, private services access connection required. Your network default require a private services access connection. This connection enables you to services to communicate exclusively by using internal IP address. Okay, I want to set up that connection so I can use the private IP. First of all, I will be enabling the API. Now here it gives you two options. You can go ahead and select the range of IPs by yourself. So if you want to go ahead and say allocate a new IP range, you can give the range right here. You can give the name here, and then here you will be provide the IP range. In my case, I'm not gonna worry about this part. I'm just gonna go with the use the automatically allocated IP range. So I'm gonna let this work as it is. Doesn't really matter, but if you have specification that you want to define, you can go ahead and provide it there. I'm gonna hit continue here, and now I'm all good here, and click create connection. Okay, so that's done, and private services access connection for network default has been successfully created. You will now be able to use this use the same network across your project's managed services. If you would like to change this connection, please visit this page. I'm all good here, so our connection is created and we will be able to use it. Now we are all good here. I'm gonna leave this everything as it is, and I'm gonna go ahead and create instance. This is gonna go ahead and create my SQL instance with the private IP. While it takes 3 to 4 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and work on my creating the VM. So here I will search the VM. So you can do by going to the navigation menu or searching it here. So if I will type it VM, and it brought here say VM instances, compute engine. If you go from the main navigation, you're gonna go to the compute engine and then navigate to the VM instances. Click right there, and we should create a Windows VM where we will install the software to connect to our SQL server that with the private IP. Okay, create our VM here, and here it is asking us provide the name. So I can leave this instance 1, that's fine with me, and it is going to be in region US Central 1. Iowa zone is fine as well. So here you have different series available. So if you see right here for 2 vCPU, 4 GB RAM, $24, you know, that's what you're gonna pay, and your hourly comes up 0.03. If I will go for another one, let's say N2 and all that, then I'm gonna pay more money for that. Okay, so I really don't need that. I'm gonna use this one as a remote desktop server, so I'm gonna leave this to E2 series. Also there is one more thing. You see right here, it is a Linux based operating system that's installed on this VM. I'm gonna change that, so go to the boot disk, change, and here it is gonna show you all those operating system flavors. Here I have tons of them, CentOS, you know, Fedora and all that, but I'm gonna go all the way to the Windows server because I want to use as a remote desktop where I can install Azure Data Studio software to connect to my SQL instance. Now this is fine, 32 GB is fine, and here let's select some little latest environment such as Windows Server 2016 data center. You know, that will be better instead of going 2012. And we are fine here. See your options here. If you delete this VM, delete the boot disk as well. Yes, I would like to do that. And Google manage encryption key is just fine. I don't have my own, so I can't really provide it here. And I'm gonna go select. Now what's gonna happen here, I have selected all that information. I'm gonna pay $63 and 0.09 per hour. That's fine with me. I'm not gonna use for many hours. It's gonna be just for demo. Now our VM should be created pretty quick, and then we will be able to move with some installation. Okay, our VM is ready, and you can see the internal IP of this VM. This is external IP, and here what I can do RDP. Once I click right there, it's gonna give me, hey, you wanna download the RDP file if you will be using third-party client. Let's go ahead and do that. Now it has downloaded this RDP file here, and I double-clicked here, and it's open with the public IPs. It already have this public IP that I was showing you right there. So we can cancel this one and here. So remember that this is the same IP it is shown. I can simply open a remote desktop and then paste this IP as well. Let's connect. Actually, before we connect, let me do one thing. I want to get the password. So I'm gonna go to the instance here, and here I will say set Windows password. So it is asking me, hey, your user is Amer. Yes, it's fine, and I'm gonna go ahead and say set, and I will set this user Amer, and then try to get the password. So now it gave me this password. I'm gonna go ahead and copy and save this password in my SSMS. Just save it there. Okay, so I have my username and password. I'm gonna go connect to my remote desktop, and let's see if we'll be able to remote to our Windows machine. And here I will say close, and you can see that this is the name of the instance. Instance is running, and we have some automatically, yes, there is nothing really we have done here. We just choose basic configuration for this VM. So we are all good here. This is 50 GB persistence disk what we have there. When I try first time, it actually gave me the error. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the downloads again, and we can go to the download here, and then try to connect with the VM again. So right after that, sometime if I tried right away, like after 30 seconds or something, and that's why I was getting error. So I gave like a couple of minutes, and now I'm all good here. I'm gonna provide the password. Username is Amer, password but we have copied already, and hit OK. Now it is asking us, hey, you're all good to connect to your VM, and you can see that it's working on profile services, and now shortly our VM is ready for our to use. If I will minimize this VM, and meanwhile what we can do, we can go to our SQL and take a look if our SQL server is ready. So here it is loading, and our SQL server is ready as well, and you see the private IP right there. So you see right here we have private IP. We do not have any public IP. Doesn't say much you know, how to connect and all that, but it provides a private IP. If you want to learn more the ways to connect to this SQL by using private IP and other methods, you can click on here and it will take you to the one document. So now we are here, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the right here. Let me disable some settings that I want to do, and then download Azure SQL. So let me click on local server, and in the local server I'm gonna go ahead and say enhanced security configuration disable, because I want to turn it off. Otherwise it will keep giving me different messages while I will try to download the software. So I'm gonna minimize this a little bit, you know, and then bring it down here so we can see right there. Okay, so here I'm going to open Internet Explorer, and once hit OK, and let's close this window. So here we can go to the google.com, and then we can download Azure Data Studio. If you are interested to download SSMS, that's fine as well, but Azure Data Studio is gonna work just fine for us. Download now is a small software as compared to the SSMS, and we can see right there we can download. So for the Windows user installer, download this, run. It's running security scans and all those kind of things. I have done this in past. It doesn't take a whole lot to execute. So Azure Data Studio, yes, go ahead, create desktop icon, that's fine, and install. Okay, we are all good, and let's launch Azure Data Studio, and then we will connect to our SQL instance by using the private IP. Create a connection, that's what you need to do here. Click on that one. Okay, it is asking, this is gonna refresh. Shouldn't be stuck there. I can cancel this out and click one more time, and now you can see right there. Okay, so you have connection type SQL. So there could be other connection type, but right now I am only making SQL. You can provide your server here. You can do authentication. In our case, it's going to be SQL login. So you can provide all that information. Let me go back and then get me IP. So remember that this is the private IP of my SQL instance. So you will go to the SQL right here, and then click on your instance, and then you will copy the private IP. So you can simply copy from here, right? If you go to the instance as well, it's going to show you IP right there under the private IP. You can copy from there as well. Once you do that, go ahead and open your remote desktop, and here provide that IP where it says server, login, and your username is SQL server, and then your password, whatever you have provided when you were creating your SQL instance. Default instance, database default, leave everything default, that's fine, and hit connect. Now it should be connecting to our SQL server instance. Now you can see that this is connected to this IP, and we can see some databases there. There is master, model, and MSDB and TempDB. Right click here and say new query, and now I can go ahead and create a database. So let's say create database test, and then we should execute this by hitting run, and then we should be good. Let's go back here on your SQL instance that you have right here, and go to databases, and you can see that we have a test databases just created. We created this database by logging into the remote VM server here, and then we connected with Azure Data Studio to our SQL Server instance that by using the private IP. See right there, that's the IP we used. Now, if I don't want to do a whole lot here, but if you want to connect here on the top, you say connections. Click right there in the drop down, and then you have databases. And you can see test database is created as well here. It was created in the query, you could see, but this is more visible. Don't save, and then you are fine here. You can make it large if you want. System databases are right there as well. If you want to go ahead and create a table or anything, you can always right click here, say new query, and then you will say create table test one or test one, and then say ID integer, and you should be good to go. Go ahead and execute. And now if I go under tables, I can see my table, I can insert data, and I can do whatever I want from here. Now, if I will take the same IP, that's a private IP, and try to connect, so if you guys notice here, this is a private IP, right? So if I will take this private IP and try to connect from my SSMS that I have installed on my laptop, then it's not going to let me connect them. So if I will go ahead and say connect, and here I will provide that IP, and the SQL Server authentication, SQL Server, and say my password. So it's not gonna let me connect. It's gonna throw me error because my laptop is not added to the IP list of the SQL Server instance we have created. We have told the SQL Server to use only the private IP. So with the Google Cloud, it is able to communicate with that default VPC we have there when we created this SQL Server instance. But if we try to connect outside of VPC by using this some other laptops or all that, we are going to get this error. So now if you have this scenario where you don't want to, like, hey, we have maybe consultant coming in, we don't want to give him permission to log into our remote VMs and then connect from there. Maybe just for a couple of hours we want to give him permission, and then we will remove it. So in those cases, maybe you need his IP. So what you will do, you will go here, and then you will go to the edit button. And now, right now, we have only private IP. So you can't really connect from anywhere else. Just you need to go here and in the authentication, in connection, and now I will say public IP. Once I enable public IP, I can add the network from which I would like to connect. So as I want to connect from what is my IP? From my laptop. I need to take this IP. Okay, that's my IP, and then add as a network here. So once I do that, I will say my IP. Now connect there, and then done, and then save. So it's going to take a little bit time, and once it's done, now we will see two IPs. See right here in the connection, right now we are seeing only private IP that we use to connect from our VM that we created in the Google Cloud, and that's fine. Now once we will have public IP, then we will use that public IP to connect from a laptop to the SQL instance. And if you go to your VM here, that's we connected by using public IP, but the actual IP of this machine is if you want to check the internal IP of this machine, that's you can check by saying IP config on your CMD, and you will say this is also the local IP of this is a different so IP config. So see right there 10.128.0.3. Okay, this is able to communicate with the our SQL Server instance VPC. That's a default by VPC pairing and all those techniques. So we are good here, and now let this complete, and then we will try to connect to the SQL Server instance by using our public IP. Our public IP is also created, and you can see right there this has completed. Now you see another tab here saying public IP address, and that's the public IP address assigned to this SQL Server instance. So the private IP is this one. So now I can take this public IP, and if I would like to connect from my laptop, that's fine. I can simply provide the IP here and then hit connect. And you can see that is connected, and if I can go to databases, I will be able to see all databases, also the test databases there as well that we created from the by using the VM Azure Data Studio installed on that one. So you can if you want to insert more records or anything, you are good to go here, and this is how you will add the private IP and then connect from some VM on the Google Cloud, which is also using the private IP. And also, if you would like to connect by using the public IP, then you have to enable the public IP and then use this IP. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.